Welcome back to the show, guys. Athletic NBA Daily. Zena Keita here, joined by Tyler Rucker from No Ceilings. Tyler, welcome to the NBA Daily.
Dana, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited and thrilled to be here. I can't believe the draft's over. It feels like
I
it's
know.
sad, but I'm also excited to kind of now see these guys at Summer League, hopefully.
Right. It's like this whirlwind of emotion, mostly for the parents, but also for the fans, as they're seeing their teams kind of start the next chapter, right? Some teams are building for the future, some teams are plugging holes, and some teams are just trying to figure out, do we still want our jobs as GMs tomorrow? That's what we're going to get into today, just looking a little bit at what happened over the last 2 days of the draft. And I'm very excited to talk to you because you're quite literally an expert about this. And so I want to gauge you from not only an expert, but also kind of as a fan of the NBA. So I'm going to start first and foremost. What did you think about the hat debacle?
It's something that drives me crazy a little bit each year because not only am I getting excited about these guys getting drafted for each teams, but then half the time I'm like, wait, actually they're going somewhere else, and I'm trying to keep up with the trade. So we got to figure out something with the hats because it's the biggest moment of your life, and you're wearing the wrong team's hat. Like, come
Right.
on, we got to fix it.
These pictures are going to be played forever and ever and ever. These guys are going to be all stars one day. It's going to be that picture with Adam Silver or Mark Tatum in the wrong hat. It seems like a simple problem to be able to address, but I guess we're just here with that. I was hoping you might have a solution, Tyler, but we'll have to keep thinking about that.
You have to keep
That's all
thinking
good.
about it. Yeah, because
It's
I
crazy.
still have Luca with a Hawks hat, like burned in my head. So
Right.
we've got to figure something out. It's creating nightmares for fan bases.
Agreed. Okay. Well, speaking of nightmares for fan bases, I'm really actually happy you brought that up. As you're looking across the draft, if you were to lead a group therapy session for a fan base out in the NBA, who do you think deserves it the most or needs it the most after how their team drafted this year?
I think Portland Trailblazers fans, I've had a lot of them reach out to me, kind of just confused of like, oh, we really swung on Hanson
Mm,
Yang in the first round, and it's like, I just be patient. It's okay. I trust that front office, and he's a really talented player on the offensive side of the ball. Has some
mm.
special gifts with his footwork and everything, and I trust what they're building. Portland knows what they're doing. They got a great scouting department. So I've had a lot of Blazers fans reach out today and been like, it's okay. Take some deep breaths. We're going to be all right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were wondering, first and foremost, he would have been available tonight, right? And why do you go so early with that? And then on top of it, there's so much size already in Portland. And so it just didn't quite make sense. But it's interesting, you're having the same kind of reaction that S had about Hansen. Young Hansen, we're going to have to get this right. It's like Yao
I'm the
Ming.
same way.
Family name is Young. Gotta say, but we're not going to call him Hansen. We're probably going to call him Young Hansen out of China. And, you talk about his, footwork and particularly his offensive ability, but what are the main questions around him, like the defensive end of things?
Yeah, I think it was tough for a lot of scouts and evaluators just trying to kind of measure of like, hey, what's the competition like overseas in the China League? And then all of a sudden I think the defense is just kind of what you're trying to figure out. But with Portland, they're trying to build a team that's kind of anchoring themselves on their defensive talent. They
Mm,
brought Drew
mhm.
Holiday in this offseason, and Tamani Kamara's taking great strides. Donovan Clingan last year. So they're trying to build that identity. So now maybe you're thinking, hey, I'm doing it too. Young Hansen is going to
Right.
be one of those guys that just maybe you can have him around those pieces, and his offensive game can really unlock everything. So I get it. I think
Mm.
a lot of fans were thinking he would be available later, but it was a name too that many I think were thinking was maybe going to be like Brooklyn. Maybe it was going to be a team that was wanting to get him. So, and in doubt, go get your guy. And I guess that's what Portland
That's
did.
fair.
Yeah.
I do respect teams that go, they trade up, they figure it out. Because one, as a player, it makes you feel very wanted. Thank you, appreciate you doing the things. Speaking of, teams trading up, there were some interesting trades today that felt heavy. I'm thinking about Boston. I'm thinking about that number 32 pick, and the haul that they got for that number 32 pick. Were there any trades today that surprised you? I think that one was the one that, happened for me, but any trades in your book that you were like, "Whoa, I did not expect them," or even not even just today, but over the course of the draft?
I think today with Boston, a lot of us, evaluators, people that know ceilings, my team, we thought that Boston might be looking for a center, and we thought Kalkbrenner might have made a lot of sense there. He ended up going to Charlotte later, but
Mm.
that was a big trade for the amount of picks they got. So I understood why they fell back before the draft even started. I thought the Phoenix Suns kind of maneuvering the board to get up, to get to the top, and make a trade with the Timberwolves for Rasheer Fleming was a great move. So yesterday, I think the big one was the Pelicans. Was them going all out, trading that future pick to get Derek Queen at 13. So I know that drew a lot of attention online
Yeah.
and in the draft community. But coming into the draft, if you said, "Hey, we left with Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen," I think you'd be ecstatic. It's just it was a hefty price to pay with that 26 unprotected pick, but they're going to be proud about the rookie class they have. So hopefully it works out for them.
Yeah, I'm looking at particularly the fact that I get that Boston wanted to, get a guard, maybe get some size. I'm also thinking when you said about a team looking for size, I immediately thought about Los Angeles and thinking that maybe they were going to try and get maybe someone like a Kalkbrenner out of Creighton, especially because of his ability to score, his ability to defend. He's such a great rim protector, and he's got the height. And instead, I'm trying to track everything right now, but instead,
Same.
right, we're like literally, guys. This is straight up live right now. We're trying to make sure that we got all of our draft boards correct, but instead, out of Kiev, Ukraine, I believe it was. Let me just make sure before I keep going here.
I can't stand when the logos don't get updated other places,
I
and then I'm like, "That's
know
going
it's so
here."
frustrating. I'm like, no, I don't have. This is the best available. Okay. Anywho, the Lakers end up in a situation where they don't get quite the size. Still trying to figure out what they're going to do, but it seems like there was a theme across teams in terms of potentially best fit versus talent or the best available versus fit. I wanted to ask you if you saw any philosophies kind of pop out in terms of the way that teams were addressing their needs for next year or in the next few years as you look through the draft. Anything pop out to you in terms of like the approach that teams had?
Yeah, for me, it was Charlotte. I really liked their class, and you kind of saw they added some toughness. They added
Mm,
some floor spacers, some high feel IQ guys. I just thought some competitive pieces. They got Con Knipple and Liam McNeely in the first round. Then today they get Sion James, and then they get Ryan Kalkbrenner, who after the Mark Williams trade, Kalkbrenner looks like he could have a shot to play really early. And he's got great size. He's a talented defender. He was defensive player of the year in the Big East for 4 years. So it's a good draft class for Charlotte, which I reached out
mm,
to someone of my friends and I was like, "Hey, congratulations!" And they're like, "We're not used to this. What's going on? We're getting this
right,
attention." So
right.
I think you see that with a couple teams, and you see a couple teams looking for the future. And the Timberwolves getting Johan Berenger in the first round, I think was a great pick for kind of building some upside and being patient. So it was an interesting class to kind of see some teams targeting guys that might help them a little bit. I like what the Warriors
Hmm.
did, getting Will Richard later in the second round. There's some nice pieces. I like the Lakers going to get a dude Diero from Arkansas. So
Yeah.
I think it was a fun night. It was kind of interesting to see, like, okay, that you guys want some athleticism. This team wants some toughness, and you're getting to see why these front offices love the draft because they get to kind of have their hands all over the place.
Right. I mean, that you brought two teams that I think if there's anyone that drafted for fit and also their future, Minnesota and Charlotte, absolutely. I love that Charlotte also got two Duke teammates. So you're looking at Concanapple and Sion James already having some chemistry coming in. You get that outside shooting that is going to go well with a LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller to open up some lanes for them. And then some size inside. Of course, you just lose Mark Williams. Ryan Kalkbrenner is great out of Creighton for them. And then the duplicate of a Rudy Gobert is hilarious in Johan Berenger. I feel like we need to know more about this kid out of France. Also, my unofficial winner of the draft, the country of France. They
They were on
had
fire.
they were on fire. And like I think it was Jay Billis that said, like, yes, they're the best players are in America, but they're not all here. I was like, okay, well, they're all in France then. The amount of talent out of France was crazy. I want to ask you too, as you're looking at this, the draft, et cetera, of course, this is the first step in these players' journeys. Next step, Summer League. What picks or matchups are you looking forward to watching in Summer League?
I'm really looking to see, Utah. I want to see what Ace Bailey can do. I think a lot of people were giving Ace a lot of attention throughout the pre-draft process, and I'm like, hey, I get it. This is why they got agents. They've got guys that are doing this stuff. So now let's get all of the noise behind us and let's just, check ball. Let's see what you got out there. You're an NBA rookie, so I'm excited to see Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson with the Wizards. I'm really excited. Just some offensive guys, and then Walter Clayton, right after you win a national championship, you're going to be teammates with Ace Bailey. I want to see what he can do. So I think that's two of the guys I'm really excited about. And I think, we're all excited to see Cooper Flag. It's like, okay, let's see what you got. Like,
yeah.
I think my favorite matchup's going to be, I feel like we always get the top guys going toe to toe on that first night of Summer League. So I feel maybe we'll get a little Mavericks and Spurs. Maybe we get some Dylan Harper and Cooper Flag. I don't know, but
I
it's a fun
think they
class.
I think they might have announced it. I saw the graphic by Law Murray, one of our writers covering the league and the Clippers, and it was a hilarious graphic, Tyler. It was literally, I think it was the Mavericks versus the Lakers, and then the Sixers versus the Spurs.
Okay.
And the names were actually called out as to who you want to watch. So on the right side, it was VJ Edscom versus Dylan Harper. Makes sense.
Yep.
On the left side, it was Cooper Flag, and you just take one guess who it was on the Lakers side.
Was it Bronny already?
Oh, it was Bronny James.
Oh,
Folks.
man. It's
Bronny
sad
James.
that we could predict it, isn't it? It's just funny.
2024 55th pick. That matters. Okay. That's what matters for ESPN or whoever it was that put it out. I think it was ESPN. But yeah, either way, I do feel like it's going to be a ton of fun this Summer League, especially there was a lot of players that were drafted overseas that apparently are coming over. I know, especially in the second round, you think about guys going two-way or being stashed and kept, their draft rights. But it seems like a lot of these overseas guys want to be a part of this. Are there any overseas talents that you're like, yo, keep an eye out on this person? They could be, a star in this league.
Yeah, Bogey Markovich, who got selected with the 47th pick to the Milwaukee Bucks, is one that I'm really excited to kind of keep an eye on. I actually got to see him at Nike Hoop Summit, where a lot of the teams were kind of getting their eyes on him because he was kind of buzzing, like, is he going to be a this year guy or next year? And then he was fantastic, and I think all scouts were like, oh, he's going to be in this class. So he might be a stash guy. I know Jonathan Gavoni on the stream tonight was like, he's probably going to be a stash, but is one of those, like, if he's a stash, he's coming soon. Like, he's going to come next year and be a legit player. He's really skilled, bit of a pick and pop weapon with some playmaking ability. So that's one that, I would keep an eye on because I'm excited to see what Bogey can do at the NBA level.
Yeah, I bet Giannis is also wondering if he's going to come over. It does seem like there's probably some free agents, soon to be free agents, that are also keeping their eye very closely on this draft to see who am I going to be paired up with next year, and what kind of players can make an immediate impact. And that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier this morning, as we were wrapping up the first round, was just thinking, outside of Cooper Flag, yes, we know, new cornerstone, new face of the franchise down in Dallas. Definitely know that he has the size, the capability, the feel of the game to be able to come in and immediately make an impact. And you could say that, I would say, for probably the top 5 picks. Ace Bailey's one of those that you're still kind of figuring out in terms of his shooting consistency and things of that sort. But outside of, I would say, even the lottery, are there any non-lottery picks that you're looking that could maybe immediately make an impact, and also, because of the opportunity that's available, maybe not less so the talent, but because of the opportunity that might be available on their team, could make an all-rookie team?
That's a good one. I would think Kasper Siakachonis going to the Miami Heat is the one that I'm
Ooh, that's a good
really,
one.
yeah, I'm excited to
Okay.
see him. I thought he was extremely impressive at Illinois this year. He had a forearm injury, then kind of struggled a little bit with his efficiency, but it seems like Miami always just hits gold in the draft, and we're always looking at guys, and they're like they're going to fall to the Miami Heat. So I think he landed in a perfect spot, and wouldn't surprise me if he's one of those rookies that we're all looking back at like, why did he go 20th? Why did he wait that long? So
Mm.
I think that's one I'm definitely keeping an eye on. And then I know I brought it up earlier, but Walter Clayton Jr. going to the Jazz, I think is just a great fit. I know they need some help in the backcourt. I know they have Isaiah Collier from last year that they're high on, but I think Clayton's shooting just could be a really interesting thing, and I think could surprise some folks. And we might be looking back and saying he's one of the top 15 guys from this class.
Wow. And Kasper Siakachunas out of Illinois, I love the fact that he's 6'5", 205. That's a sizable guard, and you need that. I think early in this draft, you look at maybe like the Trey Johnson, 6'5", but a little bit less on, in size wise. And that's one of the things that a lot of scouts would say, like in terms of bulking up. Is there any player that's kind of like that undersized vibe that you're like, I mean, Jeremiah Fierce, comes to mind, but are there any players that are like undersized that might shock us all in the way that they're able to contribute as well?
I think Jace Richardson going to Orlando was a perfect fit. They need
Mm,
shooting. They need guys that can score early on, and Jace was very impressive as a freshman at Michigan State. And I thought, it was tough because he's a little undersized. He was around 6'1", and it sounds bad, but today that's just really small for the NBA point guard,
it is.
standards.
It
But
is.
it's one of those things like if you can play, I think teams will get excited about you. And I know Orlando was excited, and he's one that I think could surprise some people at Summer League and have a good showing. So I think Jace is what the team needs with some offensive stuff. And he also has a lot more upside. And obviously his dad was Jason Richardson, who played at the NBA for a long time. So
Right.
never hurts to have good bloodlines. And I think that's going to be one I'm keeping an eye on too.
Now, is Jace Richardson like 6'1", like dating app 6'1", or is he like
I
properly
I think
6'1"?
he's 6'2" dating app, maybe, or
Okay,
6'3"
okay, okay,
dating app, but
okay,
6'1".
okay.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yep. Sometimes these scouts, it gets interesting. It's not until you really get the draft report, like they are actually at the combine and people are like to the centimeter, being able to measure some of these athletes. But I like that. I mean, I'm out in the Bay, Tyler. I'm always going to root for an undersized guard. We got Steph Curry as the mold here. Even though he's not that small, he was and has now bulked up a little bit, to make himself fit in terms of the NBA and what you need in today's NBA. On that topic, in
Yeah.
terms of what you need in today's NBA, were there any teams that genuinely, I know you mentioned Portland probably needing a therapy session for their fan base, but any team personnel, like what they did genuinely confounded you? Like you were like, how did this come up on the draft board? How did this decision end up being made? Because we had some thoughts earlier this morning. I'll share them after you share what you have to say.
You know, I the one that I go back and forth with is Brooklyn, and
Mm.
I'm intrigued with the players they got. I like guys that are high feel, good vision, just guys that can see the floor. They drafted a lot of them, but they got Jaeger Deman early. They got Ben Saroff, Nolan Traore, so they definitely got a couple international point guards, and then Drake Powell was I thought a good piece with upside, good defensibility out of North Carolina. But
Mhm.
then you added another playmaker and a big man in Danny Wolf. So they added a lot of guards with 5 first-round picks, and that's where I'm kind of like, okay, how is this going to work? I know that roster needs some depth, and I know you're taking some swings, but sooner or later, like who's going to be on the court? Who's going to share some time together? So I think that one, I like the idea of just getting some high feel guys, some guys that'll play
Yeah.
competitive basketball and bring it every night. But I'm just curious about, how is it going to work? Who's going to end up starting? Who's going to end up getting more minutes? So I guess they're just kind of rolling with the punches.
Did you feel like Brooklyn got a steal with Danny Wolf out of Michigan at that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know. I felt like they got a steal at 27.
I love Danny Wolf. It was the one player I asked around about, and it was an eye of the beholder type of prospect when you asked around the leagues. Like some teams were like, I love him. I think he could go, top 15, top
Mm.
17. Some teams were like, maybe late first. So I thought Brooklyn's value with Danny Wolf was probably one of my favorites of their picks. I just was like, this is a really good pick. Where end of the first round, it was great.
Okay, okay. Um, any team in your perspective, actually, you know what? If there was a team that you could give a grade to and they win, they are valedictorian of this draft, who would you say?
I would say one of my favorite drafts was the San Antonio Spurs. They
Mm,
got two of my guys that I just absolutely loved. And Dylan Harper at 2, I thought was just a home run pick. I know they've got a lot of guards, but I think Spurs fans will find out quickly why Dylan Harper was the second best prospect in this class. And then Carter Bryant, I think, is a diamond in the rough. I really do feel that way. He didn't put up the greatest stats this year, but just a player that's kind of a late bloomer with great defensive tools, athleticism, and intangibles. Like I've heard his interviews were great. So I'm a big believer of
yes.
those two picks. Yeah, I think those were
Yeah,
great.
I'm a huge fan of Carter Bryant. I think right now mostly because of the intangibles. Number one, loved his suit,
Hmm.
loved the suit. But two, he is a child of his mom, who's Coda, who represents in the deaf community, and I just thought it was so beautiful that one of his announcements was. Going into the draft, he talked about representing the deaf community and Gallaudet University, and I was like, "This is so rare." There were some really, really cool stories in that way. I thought uh, Common Malawach story was beautiful, but I was wondering, outside of the basketball, were there any, to wrap it up at least, were there any stories that kind of stood out to you that was like, wow, um, that's pretty special that this kid is now entering the league, and this is what it's all about?
I think it was Carter for me, honestly. It
Mm,
was I saw his video the day of the draft and I was like, this is what it's all about. Like what a cool moment. And it's cool when you see that on social media and everyone just immediately is like, oh, I'm rooting for this kid. I'm all in. Like this is great. I want
mhm.
my team to get him even more now. So I thought Carter was probably one of my favorite stories. It's cool to see a young kid like that take a moment to be like, let me do this. Like this is for someone else, not
Right.
just for me. And that's what it was, a really special, cool moment at that with that platform.
Absolutely. Some people don't want to be labeled or boxed or have the pressure of having to represent a whole entire community. And so there was a lot of really cool stories. Cedric Coward, another one.
Yes.
Um, I mean, out of D3 into the NBA first round, it was pretty dope. He had, as Harry R. Bears, nice long shot story out of D3 school that he went to on his own. He said, I wasn't good enough yet. I needed more reps. I needed to get in the gym. Killed it, was in that Pacific Northwest area, as Dave DeFore told us earlier. It's always nice to be near the Nike Hoop Summits or any of the camps or any of the big brands. That's where the scouts are always going to be. But lots of really dope stories coming out of the draft. Any last thoughts on this draft or anything that, when you wrap up, Tyler, like what are you going to be doing? What's your homework after this?
You know what? I'm getting ready for next year already.
Wow.
We got a mock draft coming out tomorrow at noceilingsnba.com, and then for 26 we're already planning ahead. But I get
That's
so
important.
pumped for summer league. I really do
Yeah.
it. I get pumped for the rookie class. I love the returners to see like who's been working on their game and everything. So this is a fun class. I'm excited to see what last year's class has been doing in the off season, and then you start getting ready for the next NBA season. This is the best time of the year. You get all the excitement. Everyone's team's going to win the title next year now, so we're all
No,
getting
right.
pumped again.
It is a really optimistic time. Any predictions for summer league title?
Ooh, title. Gosh, it's tough because I hate when they shut down guys, but I also am like,
Oh,
okay,
that's
don't play
true.
anymore, don't
That's
get
true.
hurt.
I was there for Wemby's second game, and then he got shut down. It was just like,
It was the
ah,
worst. I was there too. I was
that's
like,
the
oh
worst.
no.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think Utah will be a tough team. I think they're going to have a lot of players from last year's class and this year's class
Mhm.
that it should be a fun one.
Okay.
So I think Utah will be a team to watch, keep an eye on. They got a lot of talent from last year's class. I know that a lot of first round
Okay.
picks that hopefully will be playing this year.
I want to see what Toronto does randomly.
Yes.
I think Toronto might have a little push there as well, just because of the combination of their last year's class and this one. But okay, well, Tyler, I really appreciate you taking the time to break down this knowledge. I cannot imagine the amount of film you have watched to lead up to these two nights, but between No Ceilings and obviously helping us out here over at the Athletic NBA Daily, you have done a wonderful job of showcasing your knowledge. Where can we find you outside of this?
I'm on X, I guess we call it these days. I'm at Tyler_Rucker, and then just at NoCeilingsNBA.com, where we'll have content all the time. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is a blast. I can't believe the draft's over. I don't know what to do now,
I
so I
know.
got to get
It's a
ready for
whirlwind.
summer league.
Okay, guys, go get the right hats. Make sure you get the right merch. Don't buy the wrong jerseys, okay? Hopefully, they'll get that right before everything gets going. But appreciate you joining us, Tyler. Thank you to everyone that's on our live stream checking us out right now. Like the video, subscribe, and then go tell a friend. That's your responsibility for tonight. And then we'll give you the right hat. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your evenings.